to today's live chat with Leong Sze Hian. We started a bit late today due to some technical issues, as usual. Before we start off with today's live chat, maybe we check with Uncle Leong. Congratulations for the successful fundraiser again. However, you're carrying on your second round of fundraising, isn't it?
Yes, because the Prime Minister is asking for costs and disbursements of 129,000 plus, in addition to the damages of 133,000.
And before that, can you pull this thing over? Okay, so you're talking right. How much is it again? So that the viewers are aware.
Okay, the 133,000 damages.
Yes.
Already crowdfunded by the people.
Yes.
Now the Prime Minister is asking for 129,000 plus of costs and disbursements, which we are crowdfunding now.
I see. How is this 129,000 separated? I understand there's a difference between there's a legal cost and disbursements. If I do recollect, it's 50,000 legal for the legal costs, and the rest, which is $70,000.
79,000 plus for the disbursements.
Disbursements.
It's interesting because in Roy Neng's case, his 3 days hearing,
Yes.
the cost was 29,000. Now in my case is shorter, 2.5 days hearing, but the cost and disbursement is 129,000 plus, which is like more than 4 times of Roy's hearing, which was actually for a longer time.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying
Now,
to.
since you asked,
Yes.
the time allotted for my trial was originally 4 days. In the sense, on hindsight, fortunately, it ended after 2.5 days, because with 2.5 days, the legal cost is 50,000. Had it gone for the full 4 days as allotted originally, it may be around 80,000, another 30,000 more.
But is it based on the number of days, according to what you understand?
I think the way they worked out the amount is $20,000 per day, and so if it's 2.5 days, that's how it came out to 50,000. If it's had it gone in the full 4 days, it would be 80,000, another $30,000 more.
So just to check, is the audio still too low? Okay, looks good. Okay, so and I understand from the disbursements, right? There's a huge chunk of it coming from the Hong Kong expert.
Yes, the Hong Kong expert witness by Zoom, which was like for only like half a day. The related disbursements for him and his Zoom came up to $40,000. And of course, it's very funny because in his testimony, he was asked, why is it that so many parts of your expert report is almost verbatim, word for word, the same as the Prime Minister's affidavit? And his answer was that the Prime Minister's lawyers actually helped him to write the report.
Okay, and to your recollection, did his evidence give any contribute to any consideration of the judge?
I think you wrote an article on this, quoting the transcript. I think if I remember correctly, the judge did not pay much attention to, or much weight to his testimony. In fact, you may just sum it up briefly. The expert witness conclusion was that about 200 to 400 people would have seen my sharing of the Facebook post from a news website, the news report, without any comment.
Yes. So for the comments or people who are viewing the the live chat, you can just type inside the comments, and we would when we see the comments, if you can reply, we will just do it on the fly. So it's more like a online forum where their comments are being responded to. So don't treat this as something that we have. Don't treat this session as something that we have something to tell you. It's more like we want to talk with you, those people who are joining us from our live chat.
Back to your question, Terry, on the Hong Kong expert witness. A lot of people have been asking, why is it that we can't get anyone in Singapore to be the expert witness? I mean, why do you need to get
Someone from Hong Kong?
A foreigner from Hong Kong. I'm sorry to all the people who have asked. I don't have the answer to your question.
Okay, so on the top, before we have any people writing in, perhaps we talk on something that's off the top of my head. Let's talk about education. So there's always been this saying that all schools are equal, and people should not put too much weight on where they send their kids to. What's your thought on that? As someone who graduated from a prestigious school such as Raffles Institute.
Okay, you're asking me to go back, 50, 60 over years. I went to Cedar Boys Primary School. Now, Cedar Boys Primary School, most of you may not have heard of it because it no longer exists. Everybody knows Cedar Girls School is very famous, right? So Cedar Boys Primary School was actually, just the site, the building was just next to Cedar Girls Primary and Cedar Girls Secondary. When I was in Cedar Boys Primary, I was the top boy every year. And in those days, arguably everybody, would agree that there was only one, the premier school in Singapore, which was Raffles Institution. Mm-hmm. So, in a sense, the best of all the primary 6 PSLE would, go to Raffles Institution. I was lucky, I got into Raffles Institution, and I still remember it was so funny. You're a top boy every year. Then when you go to RI, then you say, hey, you become 400. The rank your ranking become 400 out of 400 plus, right? Because you are supposed to be amongst the cream de la cream of the PSLE, graduates. Yeah.
So what? But putting that aside in terms of like what you're going through, but what about like is there like increased opportunities for those people who come out from the schools, like alumni looking out for one another, or employers giving professional choice for those people coming from this type of schools?
Well, let me just give you an anecdotal answer to your question. I didn't go to university, so when I finished my national service, I applied for like 100 jobs.
Yes.
And I had 99 offers. now, of course, at that time, there were a lot of the demand, the supply wasn't enough to meet demand. Singapore's economy was growing, and you don't have many foreigners coming to compete with Singaporeans. But every time I remember when I go for interview, then when they say, "Oh, you're from Raffles Institution," so you can kind of sense that that gives you an edge over the
other
rest.
applicants.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. I went for one interview. I remember because the interviewers asked me, I see, your Chinese, you got P6, So, can you how is your Chinese? Because they wanted a person, of course, who's bilingual.
Yes.
This would be, in 1974 or so. So my answer was, I tried my best, but I only had P6 for Chinese. So every 10 words I see, I probably can read about 7 or 8 but more or less I'll understand what's going on. And despite this, I would say shortcoming, I'm sure there were many other candidates for the job who were much more effectively or fully effectively bilingual. They still offered the job to me. So maybe being from RI does carry some weight. As in my younger days, I cannot recall any RI graduates who were unemployed or something. But as I got older,
Yes.
I have
Your fellow graduates,
I have classmates who become security guards or taxi drivers, and this was like in a sense unthinkable in our generation. That the best graduates supposed to be the most academically inclined boys from Singapore. I would say boys because when I went to reference institution, it was an all boys school. Subsequently, in 1970, they started admitting girls to the pre-U classes. So then we had a mix boys and girls from 90. But it was really like unheard of, in my younger days of a RI graduate being unemployed or working as a security guard or a taxi driver or whatever. Yeah.
Have you spoken with your friend who then worked as a security guard as to what landed him into that situation?
Oh yes, he was working in the financial industry, and I guess what he was saying is that as you get older, your pay gets higher, right? And then when times are not good, the older ones get to go first, right? And then you can't find any other job, and I'm sure you all realize that in recent years, the job that that's always available in Singapore is that of a security officer, and I mean the pay is maybe about 2,000 plus, but the problem is that the working hours typically are 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. That's 72 hours.
Okay, so you also as a person who look into the statistics of the MOM, could you say anything about, is there a correlation between like qualification and then employment?
Okay, the trend seems to be now, the more qualified you are, the harder it is for you to be re-employed. Now, of course, it's quite natural because the higher qualified you are, the more experienced you are, the older you are, the higher your pay is, right? So obviously, when you lose your job, it's harder for you to find another one. But there's another new trend that is emerging, and that is the highest unemployment rate now is for the younger people aged 30 and below, which wasn't the case in the previous years. Since you asked this question, one very funny statistic was that at one time, the highest unemployment rate was that for cleaners. So if nobody wants to be a cleaner, why is it that the cleaners had the highest unemployment rate? Well, the reason is quite obvious. You see, when a cleaner loses a job, and mainly due to competition from cheaper foreign workers, the cleaner lose a job, can't even find a similar job with a similar pay and conditions, and that's why the unemployment rate was very high. At that time.
Okay, so we have a question here. Okay, I'll skip Prabhu's question. We have a question here in regards to Why is it that Singapore is still is so adamant in allowing Indian nationals or say travelers from India coming to Singapore despite the overwhelming cases that of COVID in their country?
Now, of course, a lot of people are saying it doesn't make sense when most other countries don't allow these people to come in because I think I just read the news yesterday. There was one flight to Hong Kong where there were like 47 people on the flight who were all tested positive, and of course there are banned flights from that country.
Yes.
But these people were supposedly to have been tested before they boarded the plane. So to answer the question, it has been said many times in the media that we need to open up to the foreign workers to come back in order to get the economy moving again,
Yes.
right? Because a lot of foreign workers can't come back, and employers are complaining that they can't get locals to replace these foreign workers who can't come back, and that's why they are coming back in a big way, But I mean, perhaps employers are not trying hard enough to get locals to take on these jobs that foreigners used to do. But to answer the question specifically, the playing field is not level. If I'm an employer, I can get a foreigner who is more qualified, more experienced, willing to work for less pay, no turnover problem because the contract is for 2 years, compared to if I employ a Singaporean, I have to pay CPF. If the guy is male, go for reservist. If it's female, 4 months maternity leave. Right? So I think we have come to the stage where even despite COVID-19, I last made an estimate that despite COVID-19, we still have about 44.5% of the workforce who are non-Singaporean.
Say how much?
44.5% of the workforce who are non-Singaporean.
Oh, if you can recollect, what was it like 20 years ago? Was it that composition?
Oh, I only started following the statistics about 20 over years ago. So it was probably about, but of course I've looked at the statistics way back. I think if you look at the 70s or something, the non-Singaporean workforce was less than I think 10% or something.
Okay, you probably just because if I do recall, it was in a short span of 20 years where we have an increase of population of 1 million or individuals, and it was also during because these people are definitely not coming as babies, right? So they're definitely becoming as employed individuals or people who study and then convert to locals. So at this point during this period of like 20-30 years, this is where you're starting to have a huge hike, isn't it?
Yes, there was a huge explosion of the influx of non-Singaporean workers starting from around the
late 90s.
No, around the mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
Around mid 80s already.
I recall it was I think Goh Chok Tong, I think 87 or 86.
Around mid 1980s.
Yes.
And of course, when we talk about non-Singaporean, we talk about foreigners as well as PRs, right? There was one time when we were granting in a year 70,000 new PRs. Of course, now if you look at the last 10 years or so,
yes,
the average new PRs granted is about 30,000 a year. Even for last year, although it was said that last year the new PRs granted has dropped to 27,000, there was an added note that actually a few more thousand were granted, but because of COVID-19, they weren't able to
come over,
finalize all the paperwork. So even last year, COVID-19, we probably still had about the same 30,000 or so as in the previous years. And then on top of that, you have about 20,000 new citizens a year in the last 10 years or so. Yeah. In fact, prior to last year the new citizen granted I think was about 22,000 or so, but in the year before, which is 2019, it was a 11-year high for new citizens granted at 22,000 plus.
Would you say that it is the way how our economy is being designed or structured, which lends us this, which creates this situation where we are so dependent on foreign labor? And frankly, if you look at other countries, I always like to use Taiwan, New Zealand, which other country? Australia as an example, where they could continue their closure of border and carry on with life because they are not so reliant on like individuals, foreign labor as per se. Yes, they still do have foreign labor, but not to the point of Singapore's dependency.
Well, I think generally speaking, other than for say the construction and marine sectors, most of the other sectors, by and large, the jobs that are being done by non-Singaporeans actually are not jobs that Singaporeans don't want to do. I mean, you go to the hospital. I used to, the last time I went to the hospital, I was joking. I said, okay, the person who welcomed you when you arrive is non-Singaporean. The person who admit you is non-Singaporean. The person who bring you up to see the medical personnel is non-Singaporean. The nurse is non-Singaporean. Even the doctor is non-Singaporean. And then when you are discharged, your cashier is non-Singaporean. And when you go for financial counseling, the office in the hospital also non-Singaporean. I mean, the same can be said about say the hospitality industry, right? You go to a hotel, say how is it possible that almost everyone you meet, right, from the time you go until the time you check out and whatever you do is non-Singaporean. I think it's become a really ridiculous situation. Yeah.
That we are that the
now,
crucial parts of
let me just add. Now, of course, then the rhetoric for many years, no, these are jobs that Singaporeans don't want, and then so people started to ask, then can you tell us what proportion of the PMETs are non-Singaporean? So for years people asked no answer, but finally last year in September the answer came out. 40% of the PMETs are non-Singaporean. I mean, it throws away in smoke the rhetoric over the years that most PMET jobs are jobs that Singaporeans don't want.
Correct. And of course, to some people they would be concerned also, right? How much of the 60% that they are referring to are converted Singaporeans? Right. No, okay. I'm just raising this point. Yeah.
See, every year they grant about 20 plus 22,000 new citizens.
Yes.
Now, if let's say 60 or 70% of these new citizens are working, okay, then before they became new citizens, they are non-Singaporean. Now, the same thing for the new PRs of 31,000. If say 60 to 70% of the new PRs are people who are working, then they are converted from foreigners to become locals. Now, say 60% of 31,000 is about 19,000,
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Now, if you look at last year's job growth figures, the job growth last year for locals was 14,900. Now, there's no breakdown into Singaporeans or PRs. Now, I just said earlier, the estimation that if there are 18,000 foreigners who were converted to new PRs, it's even more than the 14,900 job growth of locals. Now, of course, it's not such a simple explanation. There are people who die, there are people who leave the country.
Yes.
But it does, show you that without transparency, it's almost impossible to say how much of the actual job growth of the 14,900 actually went to Singaporeans, when just the new PRs alone, the number who were converted and working may be more than that, let's say 18,000 or so.
Would you also, because my view is also that the reliance on foreign labor or the opening up of foreign labor basically creates a serious problem for aging Singaporeans who might be wanting to take a second career. For example, even if say nursing putting aside nursing because it's really huge demand, but in other industry where the employers will have the choice between a senior Singaporean who is looking for a second career, or someone who is younger who first grad and looking for lower pay. Would you say that this situation in which we open up our labor market creates an issue for the seniors Singaporeans? We are not talking about 50, 60 years old. We are referring to those like 45, 50 who still can work, who are and still willing to work, but having issues competing with younger applicants coming from overseas. Because my understanding, like in Australia, again using Australia for example, where their seniors, the employers are much welcoming of the seniors to join their company, and they're willing to train them up, give them to take out course, and give them enough time to prepare. Because the thing is, right, if they don't, where else can they get the employee? Because they are not, the government will not allow them to employ the foreign, the younger foreigners.
I think your question is about age discrimination.
Yes.
And this is honed out in the statistics. Now, you can see now the highest unemployment rate in terms of age category is age 30 and below, young people. But the second highest unemployment rate is in the 40s, 50s age group. So clearly you can see that, as like Terry's question, it's harder, right, if you are, mid-career, if you lose your job, to get another job. And that brings me back to another funny thing I want to tell you. I was, I think only 1 or 2 persons in my class in reference tuition who didn't go to university. Now, in those days, if you don't go to university, it's like, you have no future, I mean, I'm talking about the 70s.
Yes.
Right? But now it's the reverse. Now it's like, the rhetoric is, don't go to university, because you don't need a degree, and then because there are no jobs for you, the whole perception has changed, right? In my time, in the 70s, if you don't go university, like you got no future, because you have jobs that are like exclusively reserved. You must have a degree, right? Now the rhetoric is, no, we must try to not care whether the person have a degree or not a degree. In fact, people are being discouraged, to go for a degree nowadays, right? So, in a sense, maybe being one of the 2 who never went to university for a degree in my class in reference tuition may have been good for me. I mean, on hindsight, in a sense, because then your expectations are not so high, and then you probably take on anything and try anything, that you have a fancy for.
No, I think the situation is not so direct as you put it. I think the thing here is, right, there's a few things compounded. One is if you're overqualified, meaning you're someone who has masters, but and you might be on market rates you're getting $5,000-$6,000 or even more, and however, right, you understand the job market, but and you're willing to work lower, meaning you're just going for a job that is open for fresh grad, and you are okay with a $3,000 pay. But when you go there, you declare that your qualification is still masters. The employer take a look at your resume and then think, why are you applying for this job when you have a master? And basically strike you off because they think they are not serious, or you think that you're gonna stay here only temporary and you're gonna move on subsequently. On that, I think that is on why the higher your qualification, the harder it is for you to find a job.
Let me answer your question with anecdotal story. I volunteered to do financial counseling for about 10 over years, and very often we get people coming and they tell us, I keep on applying for jobs and I can't get, even though I used to earn like 5,000 and I'm applying for 1,500 job, also nobody give it to me. And there was one time. This person came with the spouse, and the spouse asked me, is it okay? What if he doesn't say his last pay was 5,000 and don't say that he has a degree, So I said, well, you try and see what happened. The next day, the person told me he got a job already. So I think that answers your question, Terry.
But then this is the funny part about Singaporeans. Singaporeans are too honest. When it comes to resume, right, they would state really exactly what went on their life. They will say, oh, I went to this course, I attended this is my job experience, and they would be very, in terms of humble in what they have achieved. Whereas when you compare to their foreign counterparts, I'm not talking all, but I'm saying some foreign applicants coming here, they can say all sort of stuff they can do, things that they themselves actually can't do. But they will say which university they went to, what kind of achievement they have achieved. But all these are not necessarily true. And this gives, in my opinion, this puts the local applicants as a disadvantage against against the foreigners, because Singaporeans are too honest, while the applicants they are more liberal when it comes to stating our achievement. So the employers, if they look really just on paper, the foreign applicant seems to be better than the locals.
Well, on the subject of honesty that you have raised,
yes,
let me give you what I call the ultimate honesty story in financial counseling. One day, a person came to us and said, "Oh, what's your issue? My HDB flat came, but the HDB is refused to give it to us." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, what happened was this couple, they applied for HDB flat. So when the flat was ready, they have to go and make some decoration, and then she told the person that actually her husband has a house in Johor Bahru, So she was actually told, "Oh no, then then that will disqualify you, So it was kind of like hinted to her, you better don't say. But like she told me, she said, "Oh no, I cannot lie, So she so she I don't know whether she became homeless, but obviously the new flat that she had been waiting for years was taken away from her, So that, I must say, is the ultimate story of honesty that
Singaporeans are too honest.
Raised, And again, on the issue of age discrimination,
yes,
there's a latest statistic that is very strange. The SG traineeship scheme last month, they increased the minimum allowance in all categories, except for one category. And the only category that did not have an increase in allowance from 1st April this month are mature workers, over age 40. In fact, the lowest is ITE graduate at 1,600 lowest allowance. But the mature worker over 40, the minimum allowance, which did not increase, is even lower. It is still at 1,400. So that tells you something that it must be the case that it's very hard to get employers to take in mature workers. Otherwise, why don't they increase the minimum allowance like everybody else?
From an employer point of view, why do you think that they don't employ old workers? Because the thing is, first, they are willing to work for less. They are more experienced. It's not as if they are unhealthy. They definitely would meet certain criteria before they would apply for a job. So why would they not prefer more senior workers in lieu of the younger ones?
Okay, I was working in the airport for many years, and again, I use an anecdotal story to answer your question. Almost all my colleagues, as they got older, they were retrenched, or they were restructuring or whatever. They lost the job, So you have a situation where it's quite normal in many organizations that the older workers get laid off first. Then now you are asking the organization to, give priority to older workers whom they got rid of in the years before. It sounds kind of strange, right? So this may be one of the reasons. The other one, of course, is that regardless of the age of the worker, right, the biggest problem that employers face is turnover. Turnover, right? And that's why generally, typically, they prefer foreigners, because on a 2-year contract, there's no turnover, right? And if you employ a younger person on a traineeship, it's almost for sure that the expectation of this person is different from a over 40 worker, because a young worker, a fresh graduate, right? His expectation is, well, I'm starting, I'll do my best, right? But if you are over 40, the employer's view may be, oh, this guy already lost his job, and I'm paying him like a half of what he used to earn. What are the chances that he will continue to stay with me?
But this is a stereotype, isn't it? Because this does not reflect the actual outcome. Because a graduate might be a bit flamboyant, doesn't take a serious approach to the job, because we are not talking. Because if we were referring to the youngsters in the 80s, people who are hungry, people who want to come out and earn money for their families, raise their elderly, or that's their mindset back then. But the youngsters nowadays, it's more of a YOLO for personal enjoyment, and therefore their drive to earn more or to have a more stable job is different from what you have in back old days. And the seniors, same thing. We are talking about the same youngster who came out to work at the age of 80 and for the family. So I find that what you said, right, while reasonable, but it seems to be a stereotype.
So generally speaking, you find that most of the time we have a situation today where it's foreigners first, followed by younger workers second, and older workers last. Right? It's the reverse of Singaporeans first, and then priority should be given to older workers because they are more experienced. Of course, older workers have more commitments. They have a mortgage to pay, and they have a family to feed. But if you look around, most of the time it seems to be that it is foreigners first, younger workers second, and then mature workers at the bottom of the barrel.
Looking at what we said, I don't think we can change much for the seniors, but for those people who are like in the middle part, where we're talking about people of my age, 30 or 40, right? They are going to face the same situation of those seniors who are in the 50s or nearing to retirement. They are going to face a much worse situation, because for many of the retirees, most of them have paid up their HDB. Their kids have all grown up. But those people who are in their 30s, 40s, the mid-career, they're going to face an even worse situation. The job creation here is going to be much limited. Of course, the government, would like to say that the government has promised that more jobs are created, but then what is the quality of the jobs that is created? And also the living standards. Living standards is going to increase, but at the same time, would your pay increase the same amount? Because as we can see from HDB, it does not raise in proportionality with the wage.
Yeah, you're right, Terry. This is what many people call the squeezed generation, no? In the middle. Now you look at some of the statistics. The real starting salary of IT graduates, looking at NITEC, higher NITEC engineering, in 1999, the starting pay was $1,500. 1999, 20 years ago. In 2019, it was $1,800. So a $300 increase in the span of 20 years. After adjusting for inflation, it works out to a negative per annum increase of 0.6% for ITE graduate starting pay in the last 20 years, from 1999 to 2019. So like Terry, like you say, this is a generation where the pay is not going up.
Yes.
The HDB are much more expensive now, you know, and the cost of living is much more expensive now. And then, the future does look very bleak because the HDB, when it's more than 40 years, the value must start coming down. After 99 years, it become a zero. And, they are at the age where it's harder to get employment. So this is the squeezed, really, super squeezed generation.
So on what Jonathan said, it's not standard of living that's going up, but the cost of living. But frankly, if you look at it, as what COVID has told us, standard of living has increased. So would cost of living. For example, in the past, you're talking about just transportation, housing, and your food. Nowadays, you also include costs like your internet connection, your devices, your ability to go out and dine. These are things that are included in the Leong Foundation assessment for the seniors, because you cannot just simply include the basic essentials, because that is living for the sake of living. With the expectation to feel that you're alive, you have to increase, have to have a certain standard of living, and with that, your cost of living will also increase. You can't run away. And that's the thing. For the calculation made by the, I think, MSF or the social welfare, they are based on, so long you don't die of poverty. That's the amount that I'm gonna cater for you. But you don't factor in the point where, to feel that you have dignity, you must be able to really socialize with other people. You just recall back into the days where, like in primary school, your friends say that, let's go to this restaurant and have as a meal, and you think, my pocket, I only have like 20 cents. No, you all go ahead. I'm full. You think about that kind of emotions, and you would and take that emotion, right, to someone who's 50, 60 years old. You work all your life, and you're in a situation where you can't go with your friends or associate to just like chill out. What kind of dignity is that?
Yeah, Terry, you absolutely what you say, that you mentioned the Leong Foundation, the Leong Center or the Leong Foundation together SMU.
Yes.
Published a study last year, and this study is based on pre-COVID 2019 statistics. That 1 in 10 households don't you have enough money to eat? No money to eat for 10. And if you look at our social welfare statistics, like we say, at the end of the day, all the debate, all the arguments, just look at the numbers. Let the numbers do the talking. We have the lowest social welfare spending of all developed countries in the world. And we probably have the lowest social welfare spending of all countries in the world, not just developed countries. Right? Just the example, ComCare, 150 million last financial year to 80,000 beneficiaries. The numbers are very telling. We have absolutely the lowest social welfare spending of all developed countries in the world, and probably of all countries in the world.
And what really angers me is the fact that a lot of this welfare stuff are being outsourced to charities. And for the charities, they run their operation on the basis that government puts in half of what they raise. So the government is having a easy time just funding half of what the charity needs to operate. That's ridiculous. Like, if the charity was not doing what they are doing, the government would have to step in to finance. I give you an example, the Lions Home for the Elders. They take care of destitute elders who are not cared by their families. These are people who are on the streets if no one cares for them. And every year they have to raise money, half of what they need, in order to have the same contribution from the government. And if they were not doing what they are doing, the government would have to take up the responsibility of caring for the seniors in the first place. So while you are saying that Singapore is spending that little when it comes to social welfare, I would say that they are spending even little than what they should have been spending because of the outsourcing of responsibility to the charities.
Yeah, it's very funny, if you look at, of course, our media yesterday was downgraded 2 spots to 160th from 158.
Oh wait.
Press freedom ranking.
I think we have to be fair here. The ranking, right? The RSF World Press Freedom Index does not grade the press. They are not saying that Straits Times, the MediaCorp, SPH, they are low quality. That's why they're 160. The ranking states in which the climate in which the media platforms, the media publications operate in is worsened. So it's not that SPH has dropped its standard or CNA has dropped its standard. They are still they still have really good reporters, but the thing is the climate is such that they cannot operate. They in comparison with the other countries, their situation has worsened compared to the other 159 countries ranked above them. So below them, you're talking about China, North Korea. So it's like there's a lot of people they are saying that we are waiting for the day that Singapore will be below. It's impossible. Singapore cannot be worse than North Korea
But
or
we
China.
actually lower than like Myanmar, right?
Yes, we are. We are
Okay.
lower. I think in ASEAN we are the worst.
Oh, okay.
In ASEAN we're the worst. That's telling itself.
Okay, I started volunteering to do financial counseling about 20 years ago at the very first family service center that started this in Jurong. And it's a joke among people in the social services and people doing volunteering, doing financial counseling and so on, that I agree with you, Terry. There are many very good reporters, but it's very funny, Every time, or invariably, when you see a story about a poor family being helped, provided assistance, compare whatever, there's almost never the most important
Question.
number that is never given. That is, how much money exactly is this poor family getting?
Yeah.
Almost never,
Yeah.
And of course, people have been asking for a very long time, why don't you make the criteria for ComCare and all these social service schemes transparent, no? So people know what is the criteria, right? Right? But it's silence, right? It's like how much do we have in the reserve, is secret.
It's always on like a case by
Can
case
you break
basis,
down the workers' job growth, Singapore and PRs? No, it's secret. I mean, there are so many secrets in Singapore. I mean, why is the government so afraid of being, transparent?
Yes.
Right.
We're a democracy, for God's sake.
Yeah, we are fighting a democracy a war. I wrote I wrote I wrote a post about democracy war a few days ago. I don't know if you very busy, I probably didn't see. What I wrote in my post was, I said something like trying to recall from memory. Every battle had been lost in history until the tide turned with victory in the Battle of Leong Sze Hian, followed by the counter-attack victory by Roy Neng after a hiatus of 5 years. The final victory is in sight in the democracy war. We are the online citizen, social media, I think, sums it up. We are fighting a democracy war.
I would say people are less afraid nowadays. Okay, it's either people are less afraid or people feel that enough is enough.
Oh, I cannot but more than agree with you. I'll give you another anecdotal, evidence, if I may use the word evidence. We help people do crowdfunding over the years. Now, the very first crowdfunding I helped was actually Han Hui Hui, who in 2013, I think, was sued by a government agency for defamation, and she lost her life savings. She was only 21 years old at that time, $10,750. So when I met her, she told me this story. She was a stranger to me. She said, okay, we help you to crowdfund. So she got the money. So over the years, invariably in crowdfunding, the donors don't put their names, because transfer money, they don't have to, it's an optional fee. But now you see, I can see almost most of the people who are sending money actually put their full name with an angry message, and even take a screenshot and publish on social media for everybody to see. So I think you're right. People are perhaps arguably becoming more angry. And of course, yesterday I read the news. One former nominated member of Parliament NMP actually wrote a post that said something like the court should make defamation damages higher in order to punish all these people who are crowdfunding, because now people are crowdfunding, so the people who donate in crowdfunding should also be punished. I've never seen so many angry people being unhappy and engaging this NMP. Yeah. Did you read that one, Terry? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Huh?
It's who? Kevin Cheng?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Kevin Cheng basically was laughing at the mocking the people who donated, saying that they were like self-harming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the court should award higher damages, given the fact that the people are now willing to crowdfund the damages. Punish the people and not just the
But that means he doesn't understand how damages are being awarded in the first place, right? It's not about the capacity of the person, whether or not this person is able to pay the amount, but in terms of how much has the person to pay in order to compensate the damage.
Oh, by the way, since you're talking about NMP, for a very long time, most of my friends call me NMP.
Why?
Nuisance member of the public. Nuisance member of the public.
Since we are coming to the end, right? Maybe you can comment in terms of the whether or not defamation whether would politicians continue with defamation, given that the success of crowdfunding? Because from the very beginning, the idea of suing your political opponents until the pants drop down, right, is to bring them to financial ruins. But now, right, given that there's this availability of social crowdfunding, and therefore, like, the person would not have to bear the blunt of the financial damage, right? What's your thing on that?
The first day I was sued in December 2018, when I was interviewed by the media, I said something along the lines that politicians must learn that it does not pay to sue ordinary citizens for defamation. Something like that. That's what I said. It's a fight, not just for me, but for the people of Singapore, for the right to freedom of expression for themselves and for their children and for the future. Of course, this is December 2018. I can say I'm quite happy now, 2 years and 5 months later, that surely politicians must realize by now that it does not pay to sue ordinary citizens for defamation. And I hope that my case will be the last one. Of course, there's Terry case that is coming up.
Yeah, the judgment pending. Yes.
That this will be the last cases that politicians will sue ordinary citizens for defamation. In fact, the last legal letter for defamation sent out by a minister, right, only asked for an apology, right, and just $1,000 in damages. Okay, see, the problem with defamation is, if you look at the Roy Neng case, because he had apologized and he offered compensation of $5,000, which he was asked to, because a letter demand asked him to apologize and make an offer of compensation. Because he apologized, made an offer that was rejected, he had summary judgment. There was no trial. He only had a 3-day hearing to assess damages. Right now, so in my case, had I apologized and made an offer like Roy Neng, and it was rejected, I may have gotten summary judgment or so. Then there will be no trial. Right? If there's no trial, all these things that we are talking about today, people will not know. So I really hope that this is the last time that any politician will sue an ordinary citizen for defamation.
Okay, so before we go further on that, just to note, just now we said that who's that? That Singapore is the worst on the ASEAN, right? Actually, no, it's Vietnam. Vietnam is the worst, ranked 175.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Singapore's ranked 160. Vietnam is ranked 175.
There are only 180 countries, right, in total, right?
180 countries in this ranking.
Okay.
So Singapore is the 60th, 20th worst. So Vietnam is the bottom 5. As we say, yeah. So thanks for pointing that out. So what do we, before we end, is there any questions that you all would like us to answer? If not, we would. It's, what time is it? There's 2. Okay, so there's since we start 10 minutes late, so we end 6 minutes late. Yes. On this defamation thing, but there was a foreign correspondent, a current journalist who actually asked me about my comments, since I'm also involved in one defamation suit, on what does the success of your case and Roy's case would suggest. My view is that the politician might throw away civil defamation, because civil defamation means that they have to appear in court to sustain their allegation, their claim that they are being defamed. Whereas if someone else, for example the police, were to file a case of criminal defamation, they don't have to turn out in court. For example, so and so minister, you write about this so and so minister. The police somehow go and file his own police report saying that you have criminally defamed this person. And then this particular minister don't have to turn that in court. The police can just say, "Oh, I have reason to believe that the minister has been defamed, in whatever capacity, defamed." And then you go be investigated. You go find. Of course, you won't be brought into financial ruins, because the penalty, I believe, is about only 6,000 max. But
the maximum penalty for criminal defamation is 6,000. Then how come they didn't sue me for criminal defamation? Then the most I pay 6,000 instead of 133 plus 129. That's 262,000 plus.
First thing is they cannot direct the police to take action. Of course, they can file a police report, but the thing is, it becomes very contestable in terms of whether are they saying that they are defamed in the capacity of a public officer, or is it private individual? Because if they are being defamed in the capacity, say, for example, of the Prime Minister, then this becomes a very a legal issue, or a legal question of whether the government can be defamed. And I believe till today there's no clear answer to that.
No, the answer is cannot. You look at the Han Hui, the first case in 2013.
So,
government agency cannot sue. They dropped the case at the end. But Terry.
But what happened after that?
What happened?
The Step Board now can sue.
Oh, is it? But under different law lah.
No, they closed the loophole. Step Board now can sue.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway. But Terry, yes. Why do you think you were charged for criminal defamation, and yet at the same time you were also sued for defamation?
These are two different cases.
Yeah.
No, these are two different cases. It's not.
Why you're so lucky you get double pincer attack on you? Because I only got hit on one side.
You wore the wrong T-shirt. It's like the thorn in the flesh.
Okay. So I mean, the thorn in a small way for a very long time. In a sense, is lucky, because a thorn only get one civil defamation suit.
Yes.
But you look at your size, you must be a much bigger thorn. That's why you not only get civil defamation, you also have criminal defamation. Oh my God, I think.
Let's answer this question. So what do you think in future HDB reaches 99 years leash? So basically, when HDB reaches 99-year leash, it has to be returned to the state. So his concern is that after generation, we keep returning our assets. The neighboring country will be richer, and then majority of them would have landed property, which would be freehold. But what's the question?
That the ordinary man is finished in the sense.
No, I think I think the point here is, right, we compare to our Malaysian counterparts. This Malaysian work work for like 20, 30 years, have a landed property that's freehold. So this freehold property can be passed down to his descendants, generation after generation after generation. So this generation you have one free landed property, the other generation you have two landed property, three generation you got three landed property. This line of descendants, right, will can become richer. Singapore wise, right, since we are on a 99-year lease basis, right, and it's a depreciating asset. So your generation, the money doesn't pass down to the next generation. So your next generation might be as poor or worse off than you. I think that's the concern, if I'm not wrong, from this Mr. Ng.
Yeah, the way things are going, for the ordinary man, when your HDB flat is more than 40 years old, typically, it starts to decline in value. So in a sense, after 40 years, the age of the flat, you are slowly dying, and the moment you hit 99 years, you die standing because all your CPF and cash used for your flat will have gone up in smoke. But if you look at other countries, the solution is quite simple. Right? Most other countries, if there's a living family member, right, at the end of the lease, they typically extend the lease for a few years, right, very nominal cost.
But it doesn't solve the issue, as in the issue that Mr. Ng is actually pointing.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ng, you never watch our 1 hour plus live chat on how to solve the HDB problem. Yeah. For more than 1 hour, we explain specifically how to solve the problem. But briefly, right, you have to stop allowing PRs to buy HDB flats. You have to start decreasing the land cost component that is charged at market rates, so that the price of HDB flats will start to drop, but not too fast, okay? Then all these things slowly will go away by itself. You turn one lever, the other levers will start moving.
I think the one question that I have from this point, right, is what do you think about having people for people to pay for their property or using using their CPF funds? Because at the end of the day, CPF is a retirement fund. So now we have this situation in which, right, whether or not it's a make or break situation, where at the point of you deciding to retire, your asset must be of a certain value in order to safely retire. If not, you might be in a situation where you will not be employed any further because of the labor market, and you do not have enough savings because your piggy bank is no longer worth anything.
Well, put it this way, if HDB flats are not as expensive as they are, right, today, then the issue of using CPF for HDB flats would not be as great as it is today, right? Now, second issue, if our HDB flat policies are not such that, for decades they say it's asset enhancement. All of a sudden in March 2017 they say 99 year becomes zero, right? Then, if you don't have all this, then the problem of using your CPF for HDB is not as bad as it is today, right? So, we have to lower the price, because if the HDB flats are cheaper, the use of HDB is not as big a problem as it is today, right? If the lease is not a problem, the lease can be extended, a few years as a living family member for a nominal amount, then the prices won't drop as much as they are dropping today. So the problem of CPF being used for HDB is amplified by the policies that we have that we refuse to change.
And why do you think so?
And why do I don't know. I sometimes wonder, what is more important at the end of the day, right? To make the lives of the average Singaporean better, or if I can just pick one,
or the hot money.
Hot money, 1.48 trillion, the reserves, let the economy grow. You got to ask yourself, what at the end of the day, what is more important?
What's the goal at the end of the day?
Yeah, what's life all about? At the end of the day, when it's time for you to leave this world, you come in nothing, you go in nothing. So, what is it that you really want to do for your fellow Singaporeans, in your life? Like what Terry is doing lah. Terry is doing a thankless job that nobody wants, right? Terry, your job, if you don't do, finish it, nobody will nobody will do this job. You've been POF-marked 6 times, sued for criminal 5 times. You hold the record, sued for criminal. How many times the police have come to your house and confiscated your computer? 3 times, And anyway,
I think
salute you, Terry.
Let's end with this question. So what about because it's really similar to what we have said. So the question is, right, how about people who had paid in premium price for the resale flat if they were to lower the price? The thing here is, like, in the first place, why are people paying for premium price for resale flat? Especially in the what do you call it, city area, the mature estates, like paying the extreme example, $1 million for a 30-year-old flat. The question is, it should not be what happens, is why the heck are you paying such a high price for a aged housing? I think it really goes back to the issue about the perspective of the buyers, the homeowners, would be that you have this idea, this assumption that no matter what price you buy your flat at, right, the price will continue to appreciate. Right? Would you agree on that?
Let me allay the fears of this the person who asked this question. The policies cannot go on as it is today, right? It is like a time bomb, waiting to explode. It's already exploding, step by step. And if we change the policies a small step at a time, took it gradually, see the reaction of the market, right? You're not saying that overnight, you reduce the price of BTO flats from land cost of, say, an estimate of 55% of the BTO price. Overnight, we change the land cost from 55% to zero. Yeah. No, right? Say gradually, right? Reduce 5%, review another 5%. See the reaction of market. See what happens, okay? Right? As you turn one lever, other levers will move, right? So you can see. Adjust the lever in such a way that there is stability in overall HDB prices and not have a 180-degree turn overnight. Because if you don't do this, the other alternative is you are sitting on a time bomb that is getting bigger and bigger. That will have to. There are a billion HDB flats. So
no. There's no billion HDB flats.
Huh?
How many flats?
1 million HDB.
Yeah, 1 million. Yes, I heard 1 billion.
All this after 99 years become zero. CPF cash all gone. Right? I mean, this is the biggest disaster of the not just a century in history. We have to do something before it's too late.
On Anthony Chen's point about have you considered to sell back the HDB flat to HDB rather than to the market? We will not talk on this because SDP in their policy have already given this has provided this proposition. You could go to SDP's website, Singapore Democratic Party's website, to look at their proposal of creating a separate market where you could choose to sell to the private market and also to head back to HDB. And with this you would reduce the demand and also the price. No, you'll maintain the price of the existing market in the resale market and yet allow HDB to lower the price for those BTO flats. So I believe we have come to the end of today's live chat. Yes. So thanks once again for joining us. We would next week, right?
Yeah, next Wednesday, 1 o'clock. And, please tell us what you like us to talk about, because like today, we came with nothing, and I think we left with quite a lot of things that we talked about quite a lot of things. Thank you very much for all the questions.
So if you join us the next... if you join us the next time, just at the start of the session, throw in your questions so we know how to frame the chat ongoing. Yeah, so... Let me get my mouse. So thank you so much and have